King Jason. Okay, you were handsome. Literally. Oh, man. Okay. Anybody have fly fishing questions? Why would you recommend to someone who wants to start? What would you recommend? I would say find somebody that fly fishes. That's the first step. That's my first recommendation to anybody that's starting. Find somebody that has been fly fishing, and then find out from them where they learned, and if there's a fly fishing club nearby. That's, I found out, you know, I started out going to the school that I teach at currently, and I'm really happy. I took some classes in fly fishing from people that know what they're doing before I started, because then I didn't have to get out of a lot of bad habits. So that's a huge thing. What I find when I'm teaching is that I spend a lot of time working with people. I gotta turn this down. I spend a lot of time working with people that I have to break their habits, and it's much harder to break a habit than to learn something. So that's kind of my number one recommendation, is to learn the correct way right away. Even if you go out for a year and try fishing, you're going to you're just going to learn bad stuff. Yeah, bad habits are hard to break. Exactly. From guitar, it's very similar to guitar playing. I'm teaching myself how to play guitar, and I know I'm wrong for doing that. It's not something you want to do. Again, I'm not. My fingers aren't in the right positions, and I'm doing things in a much harder way. And I need to take a class, and I'm too busy making YouTube videos to do that. So that's kind of the same thing. Yeah. So I'd say that would be the first thing to do. You don't need a lot of classes, but you need to learn how to correct your mistakes correctly. So, yeah, learning guitar for a long time. Yeah, it takes a lot longer, I think, too. Um, that's another thing with classes. One of the mottos from the Trout Unlimited Fly Fishing School that I teach at is that we say that our school's just a weekend long, but by the end of it, it says if you've been fly fishing for 10 years. So, and I think that that's important, is that, we really work the fundamentals, and then you can go off, and then you can then when you look at a YouTube video, you can go, oh, that's what they mean when they're talking about a tight loop or whatever else it happens to be. So. Simpatico Bells. Hey, Doug Rusick. Hey, baby. How you doing? It's good to have a friendly face here. This is weird. It's not like a Zoom call where you can talk to somebody. It's just these sort of chat things. So I'm glad I have a friendly fly fisherman in the group here. So Doug, if Doug is watching through this whole thing, we're just going to do this for a while, an hour or something, and see how it works. Doug will keep me honest if I start making up stuff, which I often do. I've been known to do that. So, so what can we talk about while we're waiting for some questions here? one of the things I was looking at today, I'm getting ready to start to put together the kits for our fly fishing school. So, yeah, that's funny, Doug. So I'm getting ready to set up our fly fishing kits for our school, and I maybe would just talk about gear for a little bit while people start coming up with questions or whatever they want to ask about. So the tools we pretty much give the students is a lanyard and with a zinger and two pieces of equipment. One is a hemostat and one is a nipper with a knot tying tool on it. And essentially that's really, you can fly fish pretty successfully with just those two tools. There's hundreds of tools you can pick up, and that's part of the fun of fly fishing. I have a zillion tools, but essentially, it really doesn't take much. You have this lanyard, some flies, a little box of flies in your pocket, and a fly rod, and you can do very well and have a really good time. The hemostats, we buy them, are essentially really like $1 or $2 wholesale, and these nippers, these are not expensive nippers, and then they have a nail knot tool on them. Pull this up. It's a nail knot tool which will tie a whole bunch of different knots. And the other nice thing, and I haven't talked about this, and I'm going to do a video on that, but it also has a little file on it so you can sharpen your hooks. And sharpening your hooks is a huge thing. So that's sort of really important. Let's see, what do we have? I have a question. If you're lost in a forest and you don't have a med kit to heal myself, what if you're lost in the Florida and you don't? I don't know. Use a leaf. Stardust and Mike. My first chance here, Danny. I'm 37 and been tying for 31 years. Yes, I started at 6. Good for you. See, I started this much later. I was, 40 years old, I think, almost when I started fly fishing. Okay, Doug, I'll get to your thing in a minute. I'll tell you a story, though. Okay, so how I got started. And some people have heard this maybe, and other people haven't. But I was a high school teacher and had a student that I sort of mentored. He was a bright kid, but let's say he wasn't very focused in school. And I kind of sort of protected him through school, made sure he took the right classes. I intervened when other teachers would have trouble with him and stuff like that. And anyway, we were talking one day and he said, oh yeah, he fishes in the river all the time. He fly fishes. And I said, that's really cool. I always wanted to learn how to fly fish. Can you actually catch fish in a river? Because I was like a bass fisherman, so I'd go in a lake and, cast a rapala out there and, that kind of stuff, worms. And he said, oh yeah, you can fish in the river with fly fishing is great for that, So, so I said, oh, that'd be really cool to learn how to do that or something. He says, well, my dad teaches at this school. And I think it was like late in the year, it was like May or something. And he said, maybe you can go to that school. So I looked up the school and of course it was full. And I told this student, I said, well, it's full this year, but maybe next year I'll do that. He says, oh no, my dad's a big shot at this school. Well, I'm good friends with his dad now. And he said, he'll get you in. Well, lo and behold, he did get me into the school. And so I learned fly fishing quite late. I didn't even have a fly rod at the time or anything. And I took the class, and then the day after the classes, I went out to Cabela's and I bought a fly rod and reel and the whole thing, and then just worked on it that summer, fly fishing, and went out fishing with that student who was a ninth grade student at the time. And he took me out to the river and showed me where to fish. And his dad, who also lived in, obviously lived in the same town, told me where to go and what flies to use and that sort of thing. So I had a very, very nice opportunity to learn those kinds of things that way. I grew up in Detroit, pretty much a city kid. I didn't have any of this sort of outdoor culture in my family. They were immigrants, and we just didn't hunt and fish and do all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's a long story to answer a simple question. Let's look. It's not my first chance to say, okay, Doug, how do you debarb hook? Okay, that's what Doug is asking. Well, first off, a lot of the hooks I use, I try to buy non-barbed hooks, but I do get barbed hooks, and I'll pull out a fly right now. Let's see if we can find one that has a barb on it. And let's pull out a bigger fly. Let's see here. So here we have a big old something. I'm not sure what this is, but it's got a barb on it. It's a zonker of some sort, and it's got a hook on it, and it's barbed. And at first I would use, this is actually a really good question. Thank you, Doug. At first I would use my my hemostats and just kind of get in there and sort of do that. Hemostats aren't great for that. The other way you can actually debarb it is to, if you do have a file, you can get in there and just file that down a little bit. But the best way I've found is, and I always recommend these scissors. I have see, it's hooked to my bag. I have a pair of these. These are stream side or something they're called, but they're hemostat scissors. And these particular ones have a little anvil right there. And that anvil gives you the, what do I want to say? It gives you the strength to push those barbs down. And this is like, I just live and die with this. And that way I can push my barbs down. A couple things with taking the barbs off is that it does, I don't know if this is for sure, but I think it does make sense, is if your barb is down, there's less of a hole that the hook has to make to get into the fish, so it slides in easier. So I think you hook more fish that way. And then obviously it's much easier to take out. So there we go. Let's see who else other questions. So that's how I do it, Doug. I don't know. Whatever. My favorite thing to tie is hyper realistic. Yeah, see, I tie hyper non-realistic. I am not a good tier, as anybody knows. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I tie. I don't know what that is, but it catches fish. So that's kind of my game. But people that tie hyper realistically, I'm just in awe of. I don't have the patience for it. If I can't tie a fly in, 5 minutes, it's too long. I treat flies pretty much as a disposable product. And so I don't want to put a lot of effort into my flies. If your flies, if a fly takes you a half hour to tie, you're not going to be banging it up against the shore and losing it often. So I tend to be, I shouldn't say you tend to be, I tend to be much more careful about losing my flies if I've spent a long time working on them. Or if I go to a store and I buy them like a really cool, game changer thing that, cost me $8 for the fly. or $10 for the fly. I'm less likely to run it through logs and stuff like that. So that's kind of my philosophy. But I'm impressed when people tie really, really well. WS Warshield 608, thanks for sharing your stories. Thank you. I live there too, 11 blocks from Henry Ford Hospital. Oh, cool. Good for you. Yeah, I lived in Southwest Detroit, in the Verner Springwells area. That's where I grew up, and then later my family moved to Southwest, the suburbs. We moved to Allen Park, where everybody from Southwest Detroit lived. I mean, all the people in Allen Park's parents lived in Southwest Detroit. So, and my dad worked at the Fleetwood plant, and we were tied to that community pretty well. My first fishing experiences were in something called the Sexton Stinchfield Drain or something, and it was just basically, it was the only water that was around, and I would go down there as a kid, or we'd ride our bicycles and have a stick and a hook and try to catch fish in basically a drain. There wasn't any fish in there. Lots of bugs and crayfish and stuff, though. Stardust, I also want to thank you for continuing to train young folks so our sport never disappears. Are you seeing it catch on with some of them? Yeah, there's a lot of popularity. And my feeling is even if they don't end up fly fishing, in the back of their head that they see fishing and conservation and fishermen as important parts of the, I want to say, important stewards of the ecosystem. So that's the main reason I do it. I taught biology, so that's kind of an important thing for me, to show that there's, it's not just killing the fish. It's all about sort of taking care of the environment. So that's a big reason why I do it. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of kids that are really interested in fly fishing. Every so often the schools will have a club, and there'll be like a bunch of guys that are mostly boys, but some girls, and that are real interested in fishing. And I get a call, and they say, will you come out and show them what to do? And that's very exciting for me. I like working with kids. I did it for 30 some years, so okay, let's see what it's. Dan DeCare or something. I'm trying to read this. It's very small. LOL, I'm willing to spend 7 hours on one fly and throw it right in the trees with no care. I mean, I can make it again. I'm so proud of you to be able to do that. That would kill me, to spend that much time on a fly. I just seriously don't have that kind of information. I mean, here's a fly that I actually spent some time making. These are really good bass bugs in the spring. I should pull out some of my more junky flies that I make just to show you how bad I am. I tie a lot of flies. I give a lot of flies away too when I'm out on the stream. The most famous fly I have, and on the channel, it's gotten almost 100,000 views, is the Mike Mouradian. So if you have a chance, take a look at one of the videos there. It takes about a minute to tie, and it's incredibly effective. I mean, so I tie up a lot of these and then give people a couple of those. The other flies I tie a lot of are ants. I'm a big fan of ants. The other thing is I primarily am a smallmouth bass fisherman. We have trout streams in Michigan. I mean, obviously, Michigan is, the beginnings of Trout Unlimited, but they're a little ways away. And I live like 3 minutes away from the Huron River, which has an incredible smallmouth bass population. So I fish that river a lot, a lot. So that's how I do it. The longer tie I've done was 5 hours a day for 2 weeks. It was a praying mantis. Holy moly. 5 hours a day for 2 weeks on one fly? That's art. That's not even, that's not a fishing thing. That's art. That's dedication. That's good for you. You can do that. I make guitars. That's a little side hobby I have that I'll put some time into. But yeah, that's really cool. You can do that. I'm very impressed. I'm up by Alpena, Michigan. Oh, cool. Alpena. I love Alpena. We used to go there as a little kid. I used to go there. My folks would take us up to Alpena. I also worked on the Great Lakes Freighters for a couple of years, so I know Alpena real well, and Rogers City and that whole area. I have a cabin near Mayo, so not far from where you are up there. Oh no, I fished it and I lost it on a pike. Oh gee, you lost that praying mantis on a pike. Good for you. That's all I can say. It's too much for me. So any other kinds of questions that you may have had? I'm just rambling here. I don't know exactly what to say or where to say it or how to say it or what's going on. Again, this is my first time doing this. I hope the sound is the sound coming through pretty well? Can you comment on that? I'm just doing this with my phone. I was going to put the headphones on and the speaker, but I thought this might work pretty well. You seem to be responding. Favorite fly to fish for is bluegills. I love bluegills, baby. That's my fly. Sound is fine. Thank you, Doug. Sound and audio is 5 times 5. I'm not sure what that means, but yes. Okay, yes, we can hear you. Good. Thank you. Again, if this works out well, we'll do it more often. 5 times 5, 10. Okay. Great. I think we're doing fine here. Other questions? You want to see me tie something or knots or look, I have knots. You can hear me all the way in Florida, Jim Fromm. Wow. This is crazy. This is crazy that all these people are tuning in, or I don't know, what do you even call this? I started. Oh, let me talk about YouTube for a little bit. I've been making videos for a long time. I had a little public access TV show. I've been dabbling in it. I used to teach when computers were very, very new. I would teach like how to use Apple's, video recording stuff, iMovie stuff, for teachers and things like that. And last year, I don't know, I was starting to get bored, and I said, you know what? I already had made, I don't know, maybe 100 or so videos, fly fishing videos, and I'd post them on Facebook for my fly fish, the Ann Arbor Trout Unlimited, and just as like little tips and stuff for the Facebook page. And I said, you know what, I should get a little bit more serious about this. So I just set a goal last October, right about this time, about a year ago. And I said, I'm going to really, at that time, I said, I'm going to see if I can get 1,000 subscribers and really just try to make a go of this, YouTube thing. I thought, man, if I could get 1,000 subscribers, that would be, I'd be pretty happy, and in fact, one of the people on here, Doug, to tell them about the loon poop on the South Ranch. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. My friend Doug would joke that I had 12 subscribers. I was an influencer. So anyway, about a year ago, I said, I'm going to do it seriously. I looked up some stuff about how to do YouTube. And, it said, okay, you have to, for it to be successful and the algorithm to work and all that, you have to publish twice a week, and it has to be da-da-da. And, there's a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of clickbaity kind of titles. I'm sorry for that. And I said, but I'm going to try to do it and see if it's possible to be, possible to do it. And here I am with, I think this morning I looked and it was like 4,600 and some subscribers. And a couple of my videos are at the 100,000 people views range. So I am amazed. Now, I do make money on this. And if you knew how much, it'd be hilarious. Most of my videos I make maybe $1, $2 on. So it's not like it's huge amounts of money. And unfortunately I have to have these for YouTube to publish them, for them to get shown a lot. They have to be monetized because they don't want to show ones that aren't monetized. So I have to allow ads on them, otherwise they'll just sink to the bottom of the YouTube list. Okay, so let's see. Yes, we can hear. Okay, so Doug says, tell them about the loon poop on the South Branch, and this is actually a good thing to talk about. It's a weighting issue. We call it loon poop. I don't know what it's called in other places. It's basically muck. And along stream edges, sometimes, you'll have this beautiful stream, the South Branch of the Asabo River, absolutely stunning part of the river. It was owned by George Mason, who I want to say he owned the Bendix brake company. I mean, he was an industrialist, and he owned this large parcel of land that I don't know how many miles it is, but it's many miles of the South Branch of the Asabo River, and he donated it and said, it's to the state and protect it as a conservation thing. So there's this beautiful, pristine part of the Asabo River, and it's owned, I think, by the state DNR. And now there's paths along the side and stuff too. But the middle of the river is just, it's a perfect trout stream, stones, and very easily wadable, except the edges. And one day, one of the people here, Doug, and I, and I think his son maybe, and anyway, we were going to go fish there, and we came down the hill, and I know I went into the muck, I think about to my knee. I don't know if my boot came off. I mean, it was very difficult. It was very scary because it's like kind of like a quicksand. You get into it. So I don't know what the moral of the story is to poke around and find the hard parts, but sometimes you can get into some really precarious places. I think maybe somebody might have even helped pull me out. Cole, or one of our friends. Yeah, it can loon poop it's that really super fine silty stuff, and you just go right down into it. So It's always good to go fishing with somebody else. You can whine about it. Um, oh, I can hear you in Kentucky. Nice. Jeez, this is amazing. Do you tie with craft foam? Yeah, I do. I use a lot of craft foam. And one of my videos earlier is, oh, thank you. Somebody gave me a tip. That's, wow, thank you. Stardusted, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'll go get a cup of coffee. Well, a half a cup of coffee with that, so thank you. Yeah, the craft foam I use a lot. I did a video recently. I found these leather punching, these shapes, leather shapes. I can't run off and get it right now, but they help cut the foam really, really, really well. One of the things I make a lot, it just happens to be in front of me, is this thing. I'm going to hold it up here, right there. Okay, and I don't know if you noticed, but at the front of this very thick ant is, do you see this little, this is a little loop there, and I call this an antimabobber, and I have a couple of videos on the antimabobber, and what it was I saw that fish were coming up and sometimes attacking my indicator. So I said, well, why don't I put a hook on that indicator? Well, I use a lot of foam ants. And so I made a foam ant, and then with a lot of experimentation, found the perfect material for this little loop. And that allows me to, let's see if I can kind of show you here. So if you have, let's say this is your hook and this is your line, or your leader material. Yeah, you can, so imagine this is leader, this is much smaller, so I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Yeah, so you push it through that little loop there and then just pull it over like that and get all the legs through. And now you have an indicator with a hook at the bottom. So this would be like a nymph, okay? But I didn't have to take the nymph off. And because of the way it's on here, if this were leader material, it would slide up and down so I can adjust the height too. So that's called the antimabobber. So that's done with craft fur. I'll probably never get this off again. Yeah, I use craft foam. I use a lot of craft foam. Sometimes I lay 1 or 2 layers on top of it, and I get multi-layered things. Trying to think if I have. Oh yeah, here's some other kinds of foam. These little flies. These are made from flip-flops that I just drill I make a little drilled thing. I drill a little hole through the flip-flop, and then that's another nice way of making flies. Here, hang on 1 second, I'll be right back. No, I thought I could. I thought I had it handy. I thought I had the flip flop handy because I was just drilling a whole bunch of those a few minutes ago. So, anyways, I make a lot of ants that way. That's also what I use for when I'm teaching fly fish, or when I'm teaching fly tying. When I'm in an elementary school, we do a lot of. I teach them how to tie a little rubber ant, and then we'd go out, later on in the year, and then they get to fish with the aunt for bluegills, and they catch a bluegill on the fly that they tied. So that's a really fun thing. I also do a little workshop in the summer times. I have these workshops every Wednesday. They're free drop-in things, and I do one where it's tie a fly and catch a fish with it. So a lot of new fly fishermen, we sit at a picnic table. I have all the equipment. It's super easy, and then we tie a little bluegill fly, basically a spider, and then I say, okay, now we're going to learn how to cast, and we cast a little bit, and then we go out and fish with it, and it's great. It's so much fun when you see somebody that they just tied this fly and they caught a fish with it. It's like they go crazy. So it's a fun way to do that. Okay, like and subscribe to Mike. Oh, thank you so much, Stardust. I really appreciate that. Mike, it's your humility. Oh, geez, come on. Mike, it's your humility and honesty that attracts me. I watched you and have a level of skill and a variety of little tips that keep me coming back. Thank you. I appreciate that. This would be so cool and maybe in the future in YouTube, this would be like a Zoom call, because I think everybody learns from everybody else. I mean, I certainly didn't come up with all this stuff. It's from hanging around, having a beverage with a bunch of other fly fishermen, and they'll go, oh, here, have you tried to do this? Or, I'll go, I don't know how to tie that knot, and then they'll show you how to tie it. So all of these tips and stuff are from just years of hanging out with people, and that's just how you learn. And I thought, and again, that's why I started the channel, was I thought, you know what, why should I, there's people that are not in as rich a environment with a lot of fly fishermen that don't have the ability to go hang out with a lot of really, really good fly fishermen. And I have had the opportunity to fish with and hang out with a lot of really, really good fly fishermen. Just as a kind of a shout out, at our school, one of the instructors, a guy named Dave Leonard, who was an amazing caster, and who can explain it in a just the clearest possible way possible. And so it was a great honor I say honor, I'd never tell him that, but it really taught me a lot of stuff. Fishing with Doug, one of the guys that's on here, fishing with his son-in-law Cole. I've learned a lot of stuff fishing with those guys, and the list can go on and on and on. The kid that I fished with is an amazing fisherman and taught me a lot of stuff. His father taught me a lot of stuff. So there's a ton of people that you just learn from, and I could just keep it all to myself, or I can share it. And I think YouTube is amazing that it allows us to do that. Okay, I'll stop participating. Jim from Douglas, look at Russell Cook comment above Stardusted. Would I be correct that you use pre-made tapered leathers rather than build your own? Yes. Yes, I use leaders. I buy them. Let's see, let me dig out my leaders here. Okay. So for the fly fishing school, and so the fly fishing school has 60 students, and I personally have about 40 fly rods and use those fly rods to teach classes and stuff. So I buy all the materials for the school. So between the school and the stuff I buy, well, the school I have to buy 120 liters there, and then I probably buy another 100 liters for myself. So I buy 250 liters at a time. So, so I just have a ton of liters. They're just like this. They're essentially a disposable item to me. Now, how do I use those liters? This is a very good question, and I have done a video on this. I typically buy either 4x or 3x liters, but usually 4x liters. And what I do, let's use this as an example. So let's say this is a 4x liter, okay? Which means that this is going to be essentially around a number 12 fly, okay? There's a lot of variations. I have a lot of videos. Look for them. So I use that tapered leader. Then if I want to use a heavier fly, like something in like a number 10 fly or bigger, I will cut off the 4x section because it's tapered and I can feel it at this point. So I'll cut off a foot or so of that leader, and then that's now 3x. So then I can use that as a 3x leader. If I switch back to the smaller fly again, I just tie on 4x tippet. So I'm tying tippet, so I'm using a tapered leader from the 0.026 inch where it starts. They're all essentially the same there. And then it tapers down, basically 0x, 1x, 2x, 3x, and then 4x. So I just cut off the 4x part, then it's 3x, and then I can tie on the 4x onto that. If I'm doing tricos, I'll leave the 4x and then tie on some 5x, something like that. So yeah, I use tapered leaders, and because I do buy them very cheaply. So, and now that I've discovered that if you soak the leader, I don't know if you saw that video, but if you soak these leaders before you use them, they become incredibly supple. I mean, they're just like amazing. It's a whole different deal. And so yeah, so that's I use tapered leader. I don't bother with, I don't like all the knots and stuff. I can tie those knots. I just don't. I don't like them picking up, especially as a smallmouth fisherman. The water has a lot of like algae and stuff in it, and so those knots will pick up just little bits and bits and bits of algae and stuff. So I like that nice smooth leader. So really good question though, and I know there's people that spend a lot of time on leaders. I'm of the opinion you got to just cast real well, and I think you can do that. Hello from Georgia. Keep up the good work. Wow, thank you, Georgia. Jeez. Do you first teach the students the roll cast first? No, actually, the way we teach it, it's the standard way. It's the FFF or whatever it's called now, FFI, has a certified casting instructor program, and they have a series of steps that they use to teach people how to cast. And it's, it's kind of this 6-step method, and actually it's a 7-step method. Anyway, but it's steps. So the first bits are basically a pickup and a deliver, a pickup and a deliver. So we follow that, which was developed by Bruce Richards, and Bruce Richards was one of the founders of our school. And, so our school is, I don't know what it is now, 55, 60 years old. So we use a very, very specific technique that we have fine-tuned over the years so that students within, really, if they're have any, I don't want to say natural ability, but sort of natural ability, they can be double hauling within a day or so. So it's a very specific way of teaching. So the roll cast is kind of a little side one that's in there, but it's basically a pickup and a deliver is the first way that we start. It's a good question, though. Okay, above Stardust. Okay. What would you say if someone told you that they make 100-foot casts with a 5-weight line on an 11-weight rod? I'd have a hard time with that. One of the things that you want to do, I mean, you can do anything, you know, but your rod is designed for a certain amount of weight pulling it back. Okay. So as you're casting, the tip of your rod is pulling back, and then when you stop, it flips the line forward. So the line, actually, it's almost better for distance casting, it's almost better to have I think, but I don't know how, I haven't really tried it. I think it's better to have a little bit heavier line. I mean, in fact, the manufacturers are doing that now, they're compensating. But the line is heavy enough so that it causes that straight rod that when you're pulling it, it starts going this way, and then you stop, and then it fires the line this way, so that your line has a nice straight trajectory. So a 5-weight line and 11-weight rod, if the rod is a stiff 11-weight rod, which usually it is, then when you're pulling that 5-weight line, the line is not heavy enough to cause that to bend. So it'll just run straight. And then when you stop, it's only the speed of your hand that's going to propel it forward. Okay. It's kind of like how a bow and arrow works. You know, if you have a super strong bow and you only pull it back just a little bit, it's not going to fire the arrow very far. So the same thing with the rod. So you have to be able to bend that rod. I mean, that's where you get the mechanical advantage of a fly rod. So that's my answer to that. But I'm sure people can do it. It also depends upon the line and stuff. There's some very weight forwarded lines and there's a lot of different ways to do that, but it's not, it's a very specialized kind of thing. Stardust, it said, thank you, Doug Rusick. Okay. All right. Mike, your old McDonald's buddy here, kind of late tonight. Yeah, that's funny. One of the earliest subscribers I had is this Johnny Lightning guy. And God, 1,000 years ago when I was in high school, I worked at a McDonald's in Taylor, Michigan. And I don't know how this Johnny Lightning guy figured out that, I'm much more handsome now than I used to be. But anyway, he figured out who I was. It was funny. He says, Mike Mouradian, did you work at McDonald's? I said, yeah, that's very funny. And he's been very good. He comments on almost every video. So thank you, Johnny Lightning. I forgot your real name again, so I'll have to look it up. I got a video, let's see, Danny's here. I got a video of me doing it with 4 hauls on the rod. Oh, good for you, Danny. Again, you can probably do it. You can probably cast that far doing that. And that becomes a trick cast. My game is I want to be able to cast so I can catch fish real well. And so it's super accurate. So even though I can cast pretty far, but I'm more into the accuracy of the cast. You cast much more than 60 feet and you start, like when you go to set, your hook, there's going to be so much line out that it's almost impossible to set a hook. So super long casts are they're a good skill. They're a good goal to do, but you know, it's not everything. But it's cool that you can do it. I mean, I go out in the park and see how far I can cast. I mean, that's just part of the macho, thing of doing it. I mean, I do all the stupid stuff too, John, like, I just remembered your name. Well, thank you, Johnny. That's cool. I do have a unusual name, especially for that part of the city. Yes, I'm using it with a weight forward line, but I got a video of me casting it and doing it with 4 poles on the line. Well, that's very cool. I'm pretty on the line. Well, that's pretty cool if you can do it with 4 hauls. I mean, that's some good serious hauls, and that just means that you have really good timing and a good feel for the cast. I've also casted an 8-weight line with only hands and no rod. Yeah, well, you can. Again, it's a lot of it has to do with timing. It there's nothing special about it. I mean, you can build a house with rocks and hand saws and stuff, but if you have the tools, I have a very nice expensive rod that I like to use. With fall weather here, what are you loading your fly box with there in Michigan? Well, Michigan's kind of an interesting state. There's always something in season. Right now, we're ending salmon season and beginning steelhead season. And so salmon and steelhead, a lot of people use egg flies and stuff. I used to steelhead fish and salmon fish, and I just don't anymore. I'm 73 years old, and I don't like to fish when it's cold anymore. I'm just lazy. If I lived in Florida, I'd be fishing all the time, but in the wintertime, I'm making guitars and tying flies and that sort of thing. So I don't do a lot of winter kind of fishing much anymore. Right about now is when I'm finishing. I was out fishing recently, and there were so many leaves. It was a stunning day, but there were so many leaves in the water that, almost every cast I was hooking a bunch of leaves and stuff. So usually when it hits that point, it's like, okay, now it's time to clean out my bag full of junk. There's about 1,000 flies down in there, and I mean, if I pull this out, you would just be disgusted. But it's time for me to clean my bag and get ready for next year. I do go to Mexico every year, so I will probably do a day or two of bone fishing, and I'm going to California. And last year, for the first time, I finally got a chance to fish in the high desert in these little mountain streams with like 3-weight rods and 3-weight and 2-weight rods for these little tiny native trout. But it was great fun, amazing scenery. And I'm starting to get to that point where I'm not so desperate to go out fishing as much as I like hanging out with friends as much as the fishing part. So I'm getting to be less and less able. I also had some health issues a few years ago that pretty much tamped down a lot of my that sort of stuff. I'm hale and hearty though right now. So okay, with fall weather. Okay, what are you? Okay, yes, timing and feel. Okay, start the the tip of the day dynamite floats. Yeah, that's right, exactly. I mean, I always tell people that. It's like fly fishermen make fishing as impossible as possible. So it's kind of like that. Yeah, dynamite works a lot better. If I had to feed myself with fishing, I certainly would be using a lot of different tactics. And I was spay fishing for a while, and we were spay fishing for for steelhead out of a boat, you know, and then we're using the big rods and while it was very cool, um, it seemed like a lot of effort. Um, it seemed like I could have done just as well with a spinning rod. So sometimes, you know, you can't be so fanatical about fly fishing that that's the only way, you know, that's your only tool. You know, it's like saying, I have this particular saw and that's the only way I'm going to cut wood. I'm not going to use circular saw. I'm not going to use a band saw. I'm not going to use a chop saw. I'm not going to use a table saw. I'm not going to use a multi meat cutter, you know, multi-tool. So um, you have to be able to use the appropriate tool for the appropriate job. I'm on a little lake with a pontoon boat, and I take my fly rod out and we go fishing all the time. But I always have a little Barbie rod in there, or actually it's a Spider-Man rod with a Rapala on it. And if the fish aren't taking my flies, sometimes I'll pull up the Barbie rod, throw Rapala in there, bring it in and see if the bass will hit that. And often they do. So sometimes you just have to, you know, you do what's fun. I think that's the biggest thing is just have fun while you're doing it. Okay. Okay, Danny Care. Come up here next year and we can go slay the brook trout. Okay. That sounds good. I think Danny was the one in Alpena. So I'm very confident on 35 to 40 foot casts. How much effort should I put into improving the 50 to 65 foot casts? One of the videos I had was called how to do a 60-foot cast. And what I said there was that if you can do a really good 40-foot cast, then you just have to work on how to shoot your line. And that'll give you that extra 20 feet or, you know, 20 feet for the 60-foot cast. Your fly line, if you look at your fly line, the heavy part of the fly line, the part that you actually can cast is about 30 to 35 feet. So you have 35 feet of fly line that you can cast. 10 foot of rod. Okay, so now we're at 45 feet and another 9 feet a leader. So you're almost at 55 feet right there. So if you can cast to where your fly line starts to get thin, look up some of the videos on that. You'll see that it starts thin the first foot or so, then it gets thick for about 30. This is weight forward line. It gets thick for about, you know, another 30 feet or so, and then it starts to get thin again. Okay, that's as far as you can cast out of the tip of your rod. And then at that point, then you have to go into maybe another 10 feet. You might be able to double haul with that, but beyond that, it's all shooting. So, so you have to, so if you got a good 30, 40 foot cast, you can easily do a 60-foot cast by just practicing the shooting. And one of the things that I tell people is work on your cast, and then while you're casting, close your eyes, and once you close your eyes and hold your line, and you're closing your eyes, and you will feel, your fingers will start to feel the pull of the line, and you will learn when to let go of the line on the shooting part, and it'll do it. So close your eyes when you're casting and see if you can feel that. And if you work on that, you'll get that 60-foot, you'll get that 60-foot cast real easily. Okay, wow. Tired of looking for a name. Thank you, geez. Thank you so much. Now I can get a cup of coffee. Wow, that's, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't even know what. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. I have a pension. I have Social Security. I mean, I'm doing fine as far as, I don't need to make money on YouTube, but I do appreciate that. And all the money I make, I make these things called lawn trout, and I sell them. If you go to lawntrout.com, and all the money from that goes to buying, like taking care of my 40 fly rods and casting rods and buying all the equipment and stuff. So when I teach kids fly fishing and fly tying, this is what supports all that, and your $10 will certainly go to that. So I appreciate it a whole lot. Thank you. So there was a question I was about to do, and I got overwhelmed by that. Danny, I may be in Michigan this week, but we'll be back in Kentucky before the good weather returns. Yeah, I think I really should be living in Kentucky. We can go ice fishing too. I'm inviting anyone to try it out. Fish me, I don't care what time of year or species. Good for you, Danny. We're always game. We're always game for that kind of stuff. I used to enjoy ice fishing. I had a friend that it was like a deluxe ice shanty. I mean, it was like nice. There wasn't a lot of fishing going on there, but the food and the food and the drinks were quite good. When does AA Trout Unlimited meet? We meet on the second Thursday of every month at the Jolly Pumpkin Brewery in Dexter, Michigan. It's a brew pub that's in an industrial complex. One of those things with all those buildings, because they make the beer there, and the food is really good. So just look up AnnArborTU.org, I guess, and you'll see all the times and stuff like that. We have good meetings and good speakers, and you meet a lot of nice people too. Mike, I'm curious if you've ever attempted to cast the line without a rod the way Lefty Crane Flip used to show people. I found that to be a wonderful way to learn the feel of the line. Yeah, I've done that. I just think that if I'm, with the amount of time I have to teach people, I just do it. I just do it with the rod. I don't know. I have done that though. It's not out of the question. And it's nice to be able to see the line. And I think I'm going to do more as I'm teaching. I've been experimenting with. I know a lot of people do a lot of casting on the ground, where they don't put the line in the air, and to show the path of the line the way it's supposed to be. You just kind of flip it both ways, and I may be doing a little bit more of that actually. Casting as you drag the line across the grass. I think I'm going to do a video of that real soon anyway, just because I need to do it for myself. Danny DeCare, I fix broken rods too. That's pretty cool. I got a blank bamboo rod, an old Heddon rod, and I put the guides on and all that stuff on it, and it's an amazing rod. So I've done a couple rods where I've built old rods, where I've taken an old rod and put new ferrules on them and kind of spruced them back up. But I've never, I don't know about a broken one. I do have one rod up at my cabin where the tip's broken off a couple times, and I've stuck different tip tops on there. So, but they're not very nice. Tired of looking for a name. Your videos provide tremendous help and inspiration. Good. Well, I'm glad they're inspiring. That's more important. I think I'm just hoping that there's I have to tell you a kind of a funny thing. There's a guy on YouTube. He's got like close to 1 million viewers. And he fixes lawnmowers and old cars and stuff like that. His name is Musty One. Maybe you might even know him. And I don't really fix cars and stuff like that. But I grew up in Detroit, and I would spend a lot of time with my dad, holding the flashlight for him, and he would be, in the under the hood, doing stuff and talking, to me. And sort of Musty One does that, it just makes me feel good. I just love watching him. It's just calming. So, okay. Your video, okay. Looking forward to seeing that. Okay. I caught a smallmouth bass on a chartreuse streamer in muddy water and bright sun, the kind of conditions which most of us use dark streamers. It was curious and unexpected. Yeah. Who knows what smallmouth bass don't follow any rules. Okay, I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I catch them on the top water. You just have to try everything until you figure out what the hell they're doing. They're also different than a trout in that, like they'll go, I don't know what they, yeah, they're much more aggressive. They're just much more aggressive. I'll sit there and I'll catch them, I'll put everything in front of them and then I'll throw like one of my stupid ants and then they'll go after that. Who knows? Who knows what they do? They love the Mike Mouradian. They love what I discovered after fishing in Montana, or not Montana, but where's Yellowstone? Is that Montana? I forgot. Anyway, they love these stonefly imitations, these girdle bugs, kind of Pete's Wiggly legs. They just go nuts for these. I don't know why. So you never know what they do. Okay, let's see what else. I caught smallmouth bass. I have, geez, I have over 10,000 rods of all kinds. Okay. You can't be married then, right? Oh, I won't even get into that. Okay. I have to finish packing for a trip to Wolf Creek National Hatchery tomorrow. Oh, Wolf Creek. Great to see you all, and thanks for the videos, Mike. Yep, cool. Have a good time on your trip. That should be fun to go there. And thank you, Stardust, for all of that. This has been a pretty nice thing for me. Oh, it's 8:03. Okay, I was going to end around 8 o'clock, so we'll sort of wind up in a few minutes. This has just been kind of cool. I just thought I'd give it a try and see what happened, and I'm shocked that it's happening as well as it is. Mike, are you catching mostly smallmouth on the Huron? Yeah, I catch mostly smallmouth, and I have, like in the summertime, I'll challenge myself to, get a grand slam with a smallmouth, a largemouth, a bluegill, and a pike. And you can do that. I mean, the pike are like these little guys, but you can catch that, or there's other things. Sometimes I get a tuber, and sometimes I get a canoe, but that's kind of it. But yeah, it's mostly smallmouth, which is a challenge when I go trout fishing, because sometimes smallmouth act very differently than trout do. So you do have to kind of switch in your brain to go from the smallmouth, which are predators, and a trout, which is just a gatherer. So it's a different style of fishing. Heck, I get in trouble for about 30, 40 rods. Yep, I'm married. I'm playing with singles money. Yeah, there you go. That's what I figured. This channel pickerel count. Yeah, I do. I'll pull this out too. I just happen to have my box in front of me. Okay, what's this fly used for? Any of you out there, can you figure this one out? Doug, you can't answer if you're still there. Mile Grand Slam, Brookie, Rainbow, Brown, and Chub. Yeah, I am the Chub guy. Johnny Lightning fish. No. Well, it's a kind of fish. It's good for a fish. Anybody have an idea what that's for? Just take a guess. I want to see some comments fly up here. I don't know if you can see it, if it's focusing or not. Here, let me try doing that. There you go. Anybody else? Yep, it's a mulberry used for carp fishing. Yep. So you can use all kinds of flies all the time. You never know. You never know what it's going to be. Well, any final questions? Because I'm going to wrap it up in a few seconds. Again, I appreciate all of you who've called. And you want to make it plop. Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to give this a try. I think maybe we may do this again, maybe in a more organized way. I didn't know how to set it up on YouTube, and it seems like something's answering. 11 people are online, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited by that. And I'm impressed that you were able to find me and it got, and it worked. Yeah, good lie. I know, it's kind of cool, huh? So that was kind of fun, actually, to answer questions and stuff. I think next time I'll have my little tying kit here, and maybe we'll do some tying stuff or fool around with that and see what we can do. But I know I got a lot of comments with people wanting to ask questions, and so I thought I'd give this one a try. Wow, it's like cool. So I want to thank you all. I don't know if there was, I hope there wasn't, was there commercials during this or anything? I don't see any, so I'm just assuming that, I don't know. YouTube doesn't allow me to choose whether there's commercials or not. So I don't know if it got broken up with commercials or something, but so no comms. Good. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm trying to, they give me sometimes they give me the opportunity to not have commercials in the middle, and I always say no, because it's annoying. I find it incredibly annoying. Again, I'm not trying to make big money on this or anything. Next time would be cool. No commercials here. Good. So we'll give it another try, maybe in another month or something. Okay. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in or clicking in or whatever the vernacular is for that. And I guess we'll just call it a day at this point. So I just appreciate it a lot. So, all right. See ya on the river. Okay, that's my new catchphrase, by the way. See ya on the river. That's what my daughter said. I have to have a catchphrase. Okay, no commercials in the live broadcast. Maybe later on if you watch it recorded. Oh, maybe. Never thought of that. Okay, we'll see ya. Bye. Now I have to figure out how to turn it off. Okay, let's see how to do this. Nope, I don't want to do that.